Late night at the Wakaba house, and the living room is thick with secondhand romantic tension. On the screen, a high school boy finally spills his guts under the fluorescent lights of a classroom. The lines are cheesy, the music is swelling, and he delivers the hit, "I've always for a long time liked you." The drama on the screen is a mirror they didn't expect. Recently, all four sisters of the Wakaba household have stumbled into the same beautiful, terrifying mess. For the first time in their lives, they've found someone they actually like. First-year university student Kokoharu is the eldest. But when it comes to romance, she's still in the remedial class. She's a certified pushover with a massive crush on her senior at work. Her sisters are basically on high alert, terrified she's one kind word away from being accidentally swindled by a smile. Then there's the second daughter, Manatsu, a high school sophomore who lives for archery and idols. She's found a soulmate in a classmate who shares her niche hobbies, but her high energy, clueless vibe usually leaves the boy and everyone else completely baffled about where they stand. Akira is the third daughter and the resident professional teaser. She spends her middle school afternoons poking fun at a boy in her club, but the second he fires a joke back, her brain short-circuits and her face turns into a tomato. Finally, the youngest, Shifuyu. She's only in 5th grade, but she's mastered the Ice Queen glare. She masks her affection with a cold shoulder so sharp, it's a wonder her crush doesn't have frostbite, though she can't resist a little mischief to get his attention. Post-movie, post-mortem. Popcorn is gone, and the heavy questions are coming out. Kokaharu is sniffing over the emotional climax, while the younger ones are more interested in the buffet scene. But then the air changes. Akira leans in, eyes gleaming. "Na-nakan?" Manatsu spills. It's Matsurida-kun, the fellow idol enthusiast. They trade recommendations like top-secret intel, but a recent encounter felt like a scene straight out of a script. She was waiting for him, hands clasped, heart hammering. Today, something similar happened. He's standing there in the hallway, looking cool and slightly detached. "Thank you for the DVD," he says, handing over a box of yokan as a return gift. He calls it very good, and Manatsu is basically vibrating, especially when they start talking about the center of their favorite group. The topic shifts to Rion-chan, and suddenly the hallway is an idol concert. Manatsu is striking poses, mimicking the choreography with terrifying accuracy, while Matsurida watches with his hands together, looking like he's witnessing a divine revelation. "You're very good at it," he observes, his face completely serious. And then, he drops the bomb. He looks at her, really looks at her, and says, "You look a bit similar to his favorite idol." The energetic way she moves, the way the ribbon sits on her head. It's the ultimate compliment for an enthusiast, and Manatsu is currently undergoing a total system meltdown. He doesn't look away. "Your eyes and such. I think you look just like her." He's close enough that she can see the reflection of her own panicked face in his eyes. He says it with the blunt honesty of a true fan, leaving Manatsu standing there like a statue while he walks off. Back in the present, Manatsu is still riding that high, hugging her tablet and grinning like she just won the lottery. Being told I look like the person my crush likes, somehow it really feels good. She's practically glowing. But now the spotlight shifts. Hey, what about everyone else?" The room goes quiet. Kokoharu and Akira look like they're trying to blend into the furniture to avoid the question. But then, Shifuyu, with the stone-cold confidence of an elementary schooler, raises her hand. "I have one. Yukito. They've been in the same class for 5 years straight." He greets her at the shoe lockers wearing an expression that could melt glaciers, but Shifuyu stays frozen. She's stretching, reaching for the top locker on her tiptoes, and it's just ever so slightly out of her grasp. He notices the struggle. He's taller now, a growth spurt that makes the height difference feel like a challenge. "Want to switch places with me then?" He reaches up, effortlessly grabbing her shoes and sliding his into the high slot. "Here we go." She stares at him, her eyes wide and unreadable. "See if it's me. I'm taller than Fuyu so I can reach it easily." He's being helpful, but to Shifuyu, it feels like he's just claimed her territory. The other boys are whispering, asking if they're dating, and the panic starts to set in. The logic of elementary school: if you're late, you lose the good spots in the yard. Yukito is worried about the time, but Shifuyu is looking at her new high-altitude locker with a determined pout. "That's fine, Yukito," she says, her voice as flat as ever. "If that happens, want to play with me?" She drops the line, like it's a casual observation, but the hallway explodes. The boys go wild. Yukito is stuttering, and Chifuyu just stands there, clutching her bag. Okay, but this is mine now. She slides her shoes into Yukito's old locker, a tiny smile playing on her lips. This is mine. In her head, she's won. Back at home, the sisters are absolutely floored. So you can use the shoe locker of the boy you like? It's a tactical masterclass in elementary school romance. Now all eyes are on the eldest. Fuyu. That's so cool. Kokaharu is genuinely impressed. But when asked about her own story, she shrinks. Someone like me, not at all. She calls her love life plain, but the sisters aren't buying it. They want the mature university romance tea. The senior at her part-time job, Sakuragi-san. He's 2 years older and carries the authority of someone who actually knows how to run a kitchen. He walks in, eyes sharp and focused. If you have time to chat, please get back to work. It's cold, but it sends a shiver down Kokoharu's spine. She's scrambling now, apologizing to everyone and anyone. Sakuragi-san keeps the kitchen on a tight leash, barking orders about pasta and lasagna. Kokoharu is a mess of nerves, repeating the orders back like a prayer. Fork and spoon was it? She tries to be helpful, asking about side plates, but her senior's gaze is like a spotlight. The fork and knife is correct. He looms over her, and Kokoharu is basically vibrating. Yes, I'm sorry, she shrieks, her coworkers watching the disaster with a mix of pity and amusement. But then the atmosphere shifts. He sees her trembling, her hands clasped tight. His face softens, just a fraction. He gives her a thumbs up. Wakaba-san, it's okay, you're correct. It's such a small gesture, but to her it's like a grand declaration. She bows so low she nearly hits the floor. Thank you. Back at home, Kokoharu is clutching her face. That hand sign is too cute. Manatsu thinks it's a romantic breakthrough, but Akira is skeptical. Isn't that a bit too easy? But there's no time to debate because now it's finally Akira's turn in the hot seat. Akira tries to dodge, but her sisters are like bloodhounds. They know about the kid from her club. Haruni practically begs for the details. Geez, Akira finally surrenders. It was the other day, during club activities on the badminton court. She's just won her 5th match in a row, and she's not being humble about it. Tsukimi-kun is doubled over, gasping for air. Maybe you can win when you get bigger than me. She teases, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. He's desperate for one more match, but the coach calls it for the day. Cleanup time. They're folding the net, a heavy, unwieldy thing. Tsukimi-kun stops her. You should switch with this pole, because that one's heavy, right? Akira's brain freezes. Is he suddenly trying to show off? No, my sister told me to do these kind of things. I'm carrying the light one, while making a girl carry the heavy one. He says it with such earnest conviction that Akira's defenses crumble. A girl. He called her a girl. Not a clubmate, not an opponent. A girl. The realization hits her like a smash at the net. She goes into full defense mode. Don't underestimate me. I can carry this much, idiot. She grabs the pole and storms off, leaving him blinking in confusion. It's the classic Akira move. When in doubt, call them an idiot and run away at top speed. Also thanks. She mumbles it over her shoulder, radiating like a glowing neon sign of embarrassment. Back home, she's getting her head patted by her sisters. Whoa, he's treating Akira like a girl. Akira, you've found a good person. Geez, don't say things like that. Akira is still fighting it. But the room is full of warmth. In the corner, Shifuyu is watching them, a quiet, knowing look on her face. She sees them all, her lively sisters, each lost in their own version of the same feeling. My sisters all look so lively and cute. Shifuyu's thoughts are gentle for once. They look vulnerable, and that's a power in itself. But the peace is broken when Manatsu leans forward, her eyes wide with a new mission. By the way, can I ask for some advice? She's lending him another DVD tomorrow, and she's decided this is the moment. My goal is to get his line contact while I'm at it, but how do you ask without it being weird? Akira thinks a normal ask is fine, but Manatsu wants something more impactful. I want to ask in a way that leaves an impression. She's worried he only sees her as a friend. She wants to make his heart skip a beat. Shifuyu, of course, has a suggestion, and the scene shifts to her imagination of a dramatic, top-tier encounter in the classroom. Do you have a moment? Can I have your line? The imaginary Manatsu leans in, her face intense, her gaze unyielding. It's less of a request and more of a tactical strike. Back in reality, Manatsu is horrified. No way, that's almost like attacking him. You're such a coward. Akira is ruthless. Even Kokoharu thinks a simple, honest ask would be enough. Manatsu is cute, after all. Surely just being herself would leave an impression. But Manatsu is already spiraling into a pit of what-ifs. Manatsu dives into a hug. Harune, you're so kind, but Akira has one more trick up her sleeve. I'll teach you a good charm. A charm for when you lend something to the person you like. Manatsu's eyes light up. A charm? That sounds safe. That sounds easy. The instructions are simple. Hold the item with both hands. Say your wish out loud 3 times while wishing strongly. And then the punchline, kiss the DVD. Manatsu and Kokoharu look like they've just been hit by a freight train of embarrassment. Kiss? I've never heard of that, Kokoharu is blushing furiously. Shifuyu just watches Akira's smug face thinking, Aki-chan is definitely making this up. But Manatsu is desperate. She looks at the DVD in her hands, her heart in her throat. Maybe I'll try it tomorrow. The morning sun is bright, but Manatsu's nerves are brighter. She's at school, walking with a friend, her expression a mask of totally normal and definitely not thinking about kissing a DVD. She greets everyone with a smile, but her mind is already at the clubroom. In the classroom, the boys are already talking about her. It's wakaba-san. Cute as always, Matsurida is sitting there, sipping his aojiru, which everyone keeps mistaking for tea. They mention seeing her dancing in the hallway, looking like a real idol. The Idol Research Club is a haven for high-level people, but to Matsurida, Manatsu is the quintessential one. She bursts into the room with a cheerful good morning, and he just watches her, a small, unreadable expression on his face. She approaches his desk, her voice a little higher than usual. Go good morning. He responds with a simple, indeed, his usual stoic self, but his friends are already losing it in the background. She's way too good. She lends DVDs even to a casual fan like him, always chatting in a friendly way, even though he's not great at talking. He watches her walk away, her ponytail bouncing. The scene shifts club time. Matsurida is in the archery range, his focus absolute. He pulls the string, the tension in his arms a mirror of the tension in the hallway. Manatsu is watching from the window, her hands clasped in prayer. He doesn't think he stands out, but she always notices him. He releases, the arrow flies, a straight line toward the target. Thwack! It's nearly a bullseye. You were so close. Manatsu's voice rings out across the range. She's cheering for him with all her might, her face full of genuine pride. He looks over, his heart skipping more than just a beat this time. She's a good person. It's a simple thought, but it carries the weight of a realization. He leaves the clubroom, his bag over his shoulder, his mind full of her. He wants to see her again just for a moment. He's late for cleaning duties, and he's worried she's already gone home. He scans the hallway, his heart sinking with every empty room. But then, he hears a voice. A soft, hesitant voice. Please give me your line contact. She's standing by the stairs, her phone clutched in her hands, her head bowed. The hallway is silent, the dust motes dancing in the late afternoon sun. She's finally said it. The ask is out there, hanging in the air between them. Matsurida is paralyzed. His face is a mirror of her own, a deep, undeniable flush spreading across his cheeks. Manatsu is already running away, her heart pounding in her ears. Why, he starts, but she's already halfway down the stairs, her bag swinging wildly. He catches up to her. Matsurida-kun, She's a mess of stutters and flustered energy. This. She hands him the DVD, her face still bright red. Should I wipe it? She panics, thinking of the charm she applied earlier. No. He takes the DVD, his own face still slightly pink. I'll treat you to a drink from that vending machine as thanks. He pauses, his finger scratching his cheek. Would you like to talk with me? They sit on a bench outside, the sun setting behind the school buildings. The screen glows, a tiny digital bridge crossing the gap between them. Manatsu's heart is doing a drum solo against her ribs, her face a bright, undeniable crimson as she clutches her phone. Matsurida looks just as rattled, eyes wide and ears burning, but the deal is done, they're connected. The night air is cool as Manatsu finally heads home. Her heart is still light, her phone heavy with the weight of a new contact. She bursts through the door with a triumphant "I'm home," startling her sisters who are already deep in their studies. She succeeded, Kokaharu is beaming, and even Shifuyu has a small, satisfied look. Manatsu is dancing around the room, full of energy. Hey, do you want to hear about today? They gather around the table, the night full of their voices and laughter. All 4 sisters of the Wakaba family have found someone they like for the first time. Their shoes are lined up at the door, a tiny testament to their growing lives. The journey has just begun, and the air is full of the sweet, awkward promise of first love. Kokoharu is doing planks on her floor, her brain still buzzing from Sakuragi's thumbs up. Akira is trimming her bangs, thinking about Tsukimi-kun's earnest face, and Chifuyu is just standing by her window, the ice queen finally melting under the moonlight. In her room, Manatsu is staring at her phone. A sticker appears, a cute cat under a blanket. Good night. She smiles, the blue light of the screen illuminating her face. This is the story of how they worry, get carried away, and grow day by day. Under the vast, starry sky, everything feels possible. Back at the restaurant, Kokoharu is playing her favorite dangerous game, watching Sakuragi work from the safety of the kitchen shadows. He moves with a quiet, practiced intensity that makes her lungs feel 2 sizes too small. She tells herself just looking is enough, but her grip on that tray says otherwise. Night falls on the Wakaba house, and Kokoharu is practically glowing, her head still stuck in the dinner rush. But nothing escapes the youngest sister. Chifuyu looks up from her towel, her eyes sharp as a detective's, and drops the truth. Big sis Kokoharu, are you waiting for the bath right now? The interrogation continues over hair drying. Shifuyu isn't interested in the fluff, she wants the stats. When Kokoharu admits she's just happy being in his orbit, the little sister leans in with a question that hits like a bucket of ice water. It's Sakuragi, right? What kind of person is he? Kokoharu stammers out the basics. He's a hard worker, he's quiet, but the words feel thin even to her. She's been so busy staring at the sun that she never stopped to check the temperature. Shifuyu just stares back, unimpressed by the looking from afar strategy. To her, that isn't love, it's a stakeout. Shifuyu starts mapping out a romantic speedrun that has Kokoharu's brain short-circuiting. It starts with hanging out, pivots to hand-holding, and suddenly they're just around the corner from a hug. Kokoharu flails, her face turning a dangerous shade of crimson. Hoo-hoo hug! Shifuyu wasn't always this clinical about romance. She reaches back to a memory of a first-grade trip to the amusement park, staring at a giant rabbit mascot. Back then, she was the one content with just looking, frozen by her own hesitation, while the world passed her by. It was Kokoharu who pushed her to get that photo, and Shifuyu has never forgotten the weight of that regret avoided. She looks her big sister in the eye, passing the torch of courage back to its source. Just looking at it might make you regret it later. The hairdryer clicks off, leaving a heavy silence in the room. Shifuyu's advice is a dare wrapped in a kindness. Stop overthinking and just start a conversation. Kokoharu steels herself, the light of a new resolution flickering behind her glasses. I'll try. The next day, Kokoharu arrives at work like she's marching into battle. She's got the posture, she's got the grip on the cleaning cloth, and she's got a mental script that's currently screaming at her. Today, I'll be more proactive. I'll start the conversation. She spots him, the heart rate spikes. She launches herself into his personal bubble with all the grace of a falling piano. A chorus of ahs and ums erupts before she finally forces the big question out into the open. Is there anything that I can help with? He doesn't push her away. He just hands her a plate of salad and a job to do. Inside Kokoharu's head, there are fireworks, a parade, and several victory laps. I did it. I said it. I said it. For the first time, she's not just a spectator, she's part of his rhythm. The shift blurs by in a series of shared spaces and silent, productive proximity. Then, the aprons come off. Tonight isn't just another Tuesday, it's the official welcome party for the new staff. The streetlights of the city flicker to life as the group heads toward the izakaya, the air buzzing with a different kind of tension. The drinks are flowing, and the cheers are loud, but something is off. Sakuragi is usually the anchor of the group, the quiet one who sips water and watches. Tonight, he's draining his glass like he's trying to put out a fire in his chest. Sakuragi, this is rare, you don't usually come to these drinking parties. On the outside, he looks stoic. On the inside, Sakuragi is screaming at himself to act normal. He's terrified he's scaring Kokoharu away with his naturally intense face. He downs another drink, a desperate prayer to his own reflection. Move my dead facial muscles. The table erupts into the classic party interrogation. What's your type, Kokoharu? Have you ever kissed anyone? She's a deer in the headlights, stuttering while the seniors lean in for the gossip. In the corner, Sakuragi's face is turning a concerning shade of red as he tries to drink his anxiety into submission. As the party winds down, the group splits between the karaoke-bound and those sensible enough to go home. Sakuragi is barely holding it together, his eyes glazed over and his voice a mere whisper. Wakaba-san. He's mortified. He spent 2 hours saying nothing but drinking himself into a stupor while trying to find the right moment to talk. He looks at Kokoharu's worried face and feels like a total failure. I couldn't talk to wakaba-san at all. He tries to make a break for it, claiming he'll sober up in a nearby park. But he's swaying on his feet, hand over his mouth, looking like he's about to lose a battle with his own stomach. Kokoharu watches him walk away, her heart winning the argument against her shyness. She catches up to him, her hand firm on his arm. The pushover is gone. The eldest sister has taken over. She stares him down, her glasses reflecting the streetlights. You're not okay. If you feel better throwing up, please do so. The next thing Sakuragi knows, the world is dark and soft. He remembers the izakaya, he remembers the nausea, and then nothing. He blinks, the cold night air hitting his face, but his head is resting on something warm and solid. I'll stay with you until you feel better. He looks up, and the stars aren't the only beautiful things in the sky. Kokoharu is looking down at him, her expression a mix of worry and something softer, her hair catching the glow of a nearby lamp. He's not just at the park, he's in the middle of his own miracle. The realization hits him like a freight train. He's lying on her lap. His head is inches from her heart. He freezes, his face going through a spectrum of colors that shouldn't be possible. Wait, why am I resting my head on wakaba-san's lap? But Kokoharu doesn't move. She just smiles, a quiet, genuine thing that settles the chaos in his chest. She reaches out, her hand hovering just above him. You did well. In that moment, all the awkwardness of the party melts away. The moment breaks, and they explode into a flurry of mutual apologies. Kokoharu is terrified she was being condescending. Sakuragi is mortified he was such a burden. They're basically bowing to each other from a seated position until Sakuragi finally takes a breath. Thanks to wakaba-san, I'm feeling much better now. The air between them shifts from frantic to heavy. Sakuragi looks at her, truly looks at her, without the barrier of his workplace persona. The gratitude in his voice is raw and unshielded. I'm glad wakaba-san was here. To break the tension, he pulls out a charm, a bizarre-looking deep-sea fish called a Domenegus. It's weird, it's lumpy, and it's his favorite thing in the world. He expects her to be weirded out, but her eyes light up. Domenegus? How do you know about it? Sakuragi's shell finally cracks. He reveals he studies marine biology at university, and the fact that she actually recognizes his favorite obscure creature has him beaming. I'm happy. You're the first person outside of university I've met who knows about it. He starts talking, and he doesn't stop, his hands gesturing wildly as he describes the wonders of the deep sea. Kokoharu doesn't mind the rambling. She's too busy looking at his face, at the way he actually smiles when he's talking about something he loves. This is the Sakuragi she never saw from afar. They reach the station all too soon, the reality of the night settling in. As Sakuragi watches her through the ticket gate, his heart does a strange little somersault. He didn't just survive the night. He found someone who looks at his weird hobbies and doesn't run away. She's unexpectedly dependable. On the train home, Kokoharu catalogs her treasures. Sakuragi is weak with alcohol. Sakuragi loves deep-sea creatures. Sakuragi's body temperature is just a little bit low. They aren't just work facts anymore. They're the building blocks of something real. She steps through the front door, her reflection in the window showing a girl she barely recognizes. Her sisters are waiting, ready to pounce on the details, but her face tells the story before she can speak a word. Big sis Haru, your face is bright red. It probably went well. In the Wakaba household, the youngest child, Shifuyu, is an enigma, a pint-sized stoic who attacks life without a hint of hesitation. In 5th grade Class 1, the stakes are always high. Yukito stares at his 97, his face tightening as he looks over at Chifuyu's perfect score. He drops his head back with a groan. "Ah man, I lost again?" He's determined to bridge the gap, practically vibrating with the need to win. Shifuyu watches him silently, noting how easily he crumbles, his face red and flustered. She sees the gap between them, and for the first time, she feels the true scale of her own strength. He doesn't want to be the one always looking up. He slams his elbow onto the desk, eyes blazing with a sudden, desperate confidence. Arm wrestling. Hands lock. Chifuyu feels his grip earnest, straining, and undeniably smaller than her own. She thinks of how many times he's lost today, and the word weak echoes in her head like a warning. She holds his gaze, watching his face scrunch with effort. She decides, just for today, it's fine. Her hand hits the desk with a manufactured thud. The crowd cheers, but Yukito isn't celebrating. His gaze falls to his own hand, then at her stoic face, and the realization hits him like a physical blow. He didn't win, he was handed a victory he didn't earn. "Just now you lost on purpose, right?" Chifuyu stands frozen, the silence of the room pressing in on her. He looks back at her with eyes full of sharp, genuine hurt before turning away. "I'm done with this." Back at the Wakaba house, the air is lighter, but Shifuyu's chest still feels tight. Akira bursts through the door, tossing her shoes aside with her usual chaotic energy, hunting for ice cream like it's a mission. Akira is the master of reading the room by ignoring the tension. She shovels ice cream into her mouth, rambling about being the type of person who tidies up as long as there's dessert involved, but she keeps one eye on her little sister's unusually pale face. Chifuyu is stuck in her own head, staring into the middle distance while she pulls her hair back. Akira finally drops the act, holding out an extra ice cream bar. "I have one extra, you know?" Akira isn't taking no for an answer. She follows Shifuyu up the stairs, determined to perform her duty as the older sister. They sit in the quiet of the bedroom, the ice cream melting slowly, while Akira tries to figure out where the ice queen is cracked. Shifuyu asks the question that's been burning. How would it feel if someone you competed with intentionally threw the match? Akira's response is instant and explosive, her face contorting in genuine fury. "That really pisses me off." Akira explains that holding back isn't kindness. It's a declaration of superiority. It tells the other person they aren't even worth your full effort. Shifuyu slumps, finally admitting that she was just afraid of him sulking and leaving her behind. The confession spills out, quiet and heavy. "If Yukito stopped caring about me, I wouldn't like it." Akira softens, seeing her own reflections in Shifuyu's worry. She tells her that if he didn't care, he wouldn't make such a fuss about winning the right way. Akira looks away, thinking of a court and a boy who keeps coming back for more. She realizes that even when there's no hope of winning, the effort itself is the connection. "I'd still want you to face me seriously." She points a finger at Chifuyu, warning her that going easy is the fastest way to lose someone's heart. Shifuyu takes it in, her gaze sharpening with a new, genuine resolve. Chifuyu offers a small, rare smile that catches Akira completely off guard. "Big sis, Akira." The title hits Akira like a truck, leaving her blushing and stammering while Shifuyu quietly offers to help clean up. The next day, the air at the karate dojo is thick with the scent of floor wax and the rhythmic shouts of practice. Shifuyu adjusts her gi, the focus in her eyes harder than any belt. Yukito is a mess of contradictions, avoiding her gaze while his mind loops over the arm wrestling match. He knows she didn't do anything wrong, but the heavy burden of that unearned loss still burns. He's always been chasing her shadow. Whether it's height or grades or athletics, Shifuyu has always been 2 steps ahead, moving with a grace he can only dream of. She strikes with a precision that takes his breath away. His eyes follow her, and the frustration starts to turn into something else, something that feels a lot like worship. Man, she really is cool. He doesn't want her pity. He wants her respect. He realizes that if he stays uncool, she'll never see him as an equal. He has to push harder until she has no choice but to take him seriously. The moment arrives. Yukito steps forward, his voice steady despite the hammer of his heart. Just don't go easy on me. Ever. Chifuyu looks at him, and the Ice Queen finally understands what Akira was talking about. They prep in a silence that feels electric. Shifuyu ties her hair back, her movements deliberate and lethal. She isn't hiding anymore, she's honoring his request. She slides her glove on, her gaze locking onto his. A single, sharp nod is all he needs. Ready. They explode into motion. Yukito lunges, but Chifuyu is a blur, her defense perfect. Her counterattacks coming in like lightning strikes. He's finally seeing the girl he admired, showing him everything she's got. A high kick connects. The air leaves Yukito's lungs as he hits the mat with a bone-rattling thud. He lies there for a second, the world spinning, while Shifuyu stands over him, breathless and glowing. Instead of anger, he looks up with eyes that are wider and brighter than ever. He's absolutely radiant. So cool, you were heating such a cool technique under your belt. After class, the tension has vanished, replaced by a warm, shared exhaustion. Shifuyu catches him as he's leaving, tossing a small snack toward his waiting hands. It's a strawberry chocolate, but he looks at it like it's a medal. He unwraps it with trembling fingers, oblivious to the fact that she's watching him with a flush that has nothing to do with karate. My feelings. He flashes a V sign, his competitive spark fully restored. Next time I won't lose. Akira watches from the sidelines, beaming as she pulls Chifuyu into a suffocating hug. She notices something in Chifuyu's hand, a pen. Shifuyu isn't just playing at games anymore, she's taking a chance of her own. As Yukito walks away, he turns the wrapper over in his hand. Tucked away on the inside, written in a steady hand, are the words she couldn't say out loud, I like you. Akira doesn't just play. She hunts. She launches herself into the air. The shuttlecock meeting her racket with a snap that echoes across the gym. Across the net, Tsukimi can only watch the blur. A crisp high five and a grin that hits harder than the smash. Tsukimi gazes at her with pure, unfiltered awe. Nice one, Wakaba. That was a good smash. He's so sincere it's practically a weapon, leaving Akira to hide behind a mask of smug indifference. The smugness is a lie. Her heart is currently a drum set being played by a toddler, and the heat in her cheeks is rising fast. She can feel his eyes on her, and suddenly the gym feels 10 degrees too hot. Time to deflect. She doubles down on the bravado, looming over him with a manic energy. My plays are intended to utterly overwhelm, she shouts, hoping the noise drowns out the sound of the panic rising within her. But once the sun goes down, the bravado starts to leak out. Back in the safety of the Wakaba house, the cool ace is currently face-planting into a pillow. The cringe is real, and it's loud. Manatsu wanders in, reading the room like a pro. She's in a bad mood, she notes, before offering the universal olive branch of a soft serve cone. Akira tries to maintain the wall, but Manatsu is persistent. It's impossible to stay mad when your sister is beaming at you with enough sunshine to power a small city. One grab, one bite, and the tension starts to thaw. If only I was honest like you. Nakan. The words slip out before Akira can catch them. Panic. She immediately pivots, pointing a defensive finger at the ceiling. This is about a friend, got it. She spins a tale of a girl who can't be honest, trapped in an uncute approach that causes nothing but trouble. Manatsu just stares, her expression shifting from amusement to a gentle, knowing warmth. It's about you, Akira? The jig is officially up. Morning brings a new kind of crisis. Akira is wrestling with her hair in the bathroom mirror, her face set in a desperate scowl as she tries to force the sidebuns to behave. Outside, the eldest sisters are already in motion, wondering if they're going to be late for the third time this week. I can't be cute like you, Nakan. It's the raw truth beneath the teasing. She stares at her reflection, seeing only the sharp edges defining her personality, convinced she's incapable of the soft, easy charm her sister radiates. She surrenders, asking Manatsu to tie her hair the same way. But the second she sees herself in the mirror looking normal, the embarrassment hits like a freight train. Stop, I'll die, she screams, the vulnerability too much to handle before breakfast. But Manatsu isn't laughing anymore. She takes Akira's face in her hands, forcing her to look. The times when you speak about your true feelings, I really think from the bottom of my heart that it's so adorable. Akira really is cute. The compliment lands with the force of a physical blow. Akira is left speechless, her defensive walls reduced to rubble by a few honest words. Outside, the world goes on, but the girl walking to school is feeling a lot more visible than she did 10 minutes ago. Back at the academy, the air is thick with the scent of chalk and unspoken tension. Akira spots Tsukimi in the hallway, laughing with friends. He looks normal. He looks easy. She, meanwhile, is a vibrating mess of second guesses and true feelings. She's shivering in short sleeves, a victim of her morning hairstyle-induced distraction. Tsukimi, being the observant soul he is, notices immediately. "Aren't you cold?" he asks, his worry sparking another defensive fire. Doesn't have to be anything, does it? He doesn't listen to the bluster. He just unzips his jacket and offers it, a gesture so simple it's terrifying. As she takes it, the world narrows down to one sensation: soft. It's incredibly, devastatingly soft. It's warm. It smells like his laundry detergent. It's too much. Her brain hits the emergency eject button, and she shoves the jacket back at his chest like it's made of live spiders. "I don't need it," she yelps, her face burning brighter than a supernova. "You have to endure it with your willpower." It's her most absurd defense yet, forcing them both into a bizarre hallway workout. But from the sidelines, the whispers are starting. "Tsukimi, doesn't she hate you?" The comment hangs in the air, cold and sharp. Tsukimi looks down, the spark in his eyes dimming. The joke isn't funny anymore. Akira watches him, the weight behind her uncute behavior finally starting to crush her. Stuff like lending your jersey would be creepy. He's spiraling now, his confidence shattered by the fear that he's been overstepping. He walks away, leaving a silence in the hallway that Akira doesn't know how to fill. The sky matches the mood. Gray, heavy, and ready to break. Akira watches the first drops fall, her heart sinking. She wanted to say something. Anything to fix the silence, but the rain beat her to the punch. He's a blur in the downpour, head down and shoulders hunched. Akira doesn't think, she just moves. She can't let him walk home like this, not after everything. "You're soaking wet." She's practically shouting over the rain, thrusting her folding umbrella at him. He's stunned, standing there like a drowned kitten while she demands he take care of himself. It's her version of an apology, wrapped in a scold. Neither one will back down, so they compromise. One small, slightly inadequate umbrella for two very nervous middle schoolers. The distance between them has never been smaller, and the sound of the rain against the fabric is the only thing keeping the silence from becoming deafening. "You'll catch a cold, right?" Her voice is a tiny bit softer now. She's looking at him, really looking at him, and for once, the trash talk is gone. There's just a girl, an umbrella, and a boy who makes her heart do backflips. They walk together, the rhythmic splash of their shoes on the pavement, the only soundtrack. Under the umbrella, the world feels private, a small bubble of warmth against the cold afternoon rain. The silence finally breaks. Tsukimi admits what they're both feeling, his voice barely audible over the rain. "Your heart's beating like crazy and you're thinking, what should I even talk about, right?" "I'm not really teasing you," because she trails off, the bravado finally failing her completely. The umbrella tilts, the light shifts, and the truth is written all over her face. My heart is pounding as well. The confession is a whisper, a surrender. She's glowing under the umbrella, every drop of rain catching the light as her true feelings finally find their way out. Tsukimi stares, his own face turning a matching shade of red. He can't help it, the words just tumble out. "Why?" she demands, her voice cracking. But the answer is already there, hanging in the damp air between them. "The wakaba right now is really cute. It's a direct hit. Akira is done. She's finished. She's currently trying to vibrate out of existence. But reality has a way of interrupting even the most romantic moments, starting with a giant puddle in a passing car. A wall of water hits them both, turning the romantic tension into a literal soggy mess. But as they reach his front door, the real disaster strikes. Tsukimi pats his pockets, his face going pale. "Ugh, I forgot my keys. Today's one of the days where my parents will be home late." He's wet, he's cold, and he's locked out. Akira looks at him, the embarrassment of the cute comment warring with a sudden fierce protectiveness. There's only one logical solution, even if it makes her brain want to melt. And that's how Tsukimi-kun ended up in the Wakaba family shower. Akira sits outside the door, her knees pulled to her chest, listening to the spray of water. She's a statue of pure, unadulterated mortification. "I'm leaving the clothes here," she managed to choke out, before fleeing to the hallway. She's hiding her face in her knees, her heart still hammering against her ribs. The other sisters watch from the kitchen, whispering about the boy in their shower, and the sister who's finally, terrifyingly, being honest with herself. The "please knock" sign on the door might as well be a warning label for a radiation zone. Inside, the atmosphere feels thick enough to choke on as Tsukumi stands awkwardly by the bed, dripping wet and out of place. Akira is a bundle of raw nerves, her usual teasing tongue currently tied in 1,000 knots. She manages a stiff gesture toward the floor. "Sit wherever you like." He settles for a polite "okay," but the silence is screaming, it's too much. She has to flee. "I'll go get some drinks." The moment the door clicks shut, the Ice Queen melts into a puddle of pure regret. Her face is burning, her hands clutching her head as she wonders what kind of madness possessed her to bring a boy home. But she's not alone in her spiral. The hallway isn't empty, it's a stakeout. Her sisters are practically vibrating with curiosity, peeking around the corner like a three-headed monster of romantic intervention. Down in the kitchen, it's a full-on strategy meeting. 2 hours of dead air is a death sentence for a first crush, and Kokoharu, ever the optimist, suggests the safe bet of homework. Manatsu isn't having any of that boring civilian stuff. She leans in with the confidence of a seasoned pro, her glasses glinting. If conversation is the problem, the screen is the solution. What about movies? Manatsu's logic is flawless. Romance movies are too high pressure. But a horror flick? That's tactical genius. Never mind that Akira can't handle ghosts. The plan is in motion. Cut to the bedroom, where the tablet is glowing with something far too grisly for these two. The screams aren't just coming from the speakers. One pixelated monster on screen, and the room erupts in a chorus of genuine, unadulterated terror. A jump scare hits, and Akira's reflex is faster than her brain. She lunges away, only to find her hand landing squarely on top of his. The world stops. The screams from the movie fade into a dull hum compared to the roaring in her ears. He doesn't pull away. He just holds her gaze, eyes soft and startlingly steady despite the blush creeping up his neck. He doesn't make it a joke, he just lets the contact linger. It's okay. While Akira is drowning in hormones, the sisters have reached a consensus. The current look isn't doing her any favors. Kokoharu is worried, Manatsu is overconfident, and Shifuyu. She's already reaching for the heavy artillery, brushes out, ribbons ready. It's not an invitation, it's an ambush. They're going to turn this tough girl into something undeniable. The door creaks open again, and the girl who walks back in isn't the one who left. The ribbons are tied tight, the ruffles of the dress catching the light, and Akira's hands are white-knuckled on her skirt. Tsukimi looks up, and for a second he forgets how to breathe. The teasing persona is gone, replaced by a softness that hits him like a physical blow. She tries to bark at him, tries to reclaim the high ground by blaming her sisters, but it's a lost cause. She's all frills and flushed cheeks, serving tea with a scowl that fooled absolutely nobody. Tsukimi just stares, his brain short-circuiting into a single, overwhelming truth he can't even say out loud. She's so cute. They retreat back to the screen, but the movie hasn't gotten any friendlier. They're both watching through their fingers now. Two kids pretending to be brave and failing miserably. The gore on the screen is a nightmare, and neither of them is the tough one anymore. They're just two people huddling together against a digital ghost. Finally, the absurdity of it all breaks the fever. Akira lets out a laugh that's bright and honest, the shoulder of her cardigan slipping as she teases him for being such a coward. So lame. She's glowing, and for Tsukimi the movie could be a masterpiece or garbage, it wouldn't matter. He's not looking at the screen. The playful banter hits a snag when he gets serious. He asks her to cover up, not because of the cold, but because looking at her is starting to feel like a problem for his heart. He stammers through the explanation, then finally just lets the truth out. It suits you. The directness of it leaves her breathless, the ribbons in her hair suddenly feeling very heavy. One last playful stupid from Akira, and it's time for the real world to intrude. The rain has stopped, and the whole Wakaba clan is gathered at the gate to see him off. Manatsu and Kokoharu are laying on the hospitality thick, while Akira stands back, the cool night air doing nothing to dampen the heat in her cheeks. He bows politely to the older sisters, thanking the wakaba-san collective for the shelter and the tea. It's the standard, safe way to end the night. He turns to Akira, and for a second it looks like he's just going to leave it at that. A polite nod, a formal name, and then he'll walk into the dark. He stops. He takes a breath, his face setting into a mask of pure, terrifying determination. He turns back, and instead of the family name, he lets the forbidden word drop. Akira. The sound of it, her name in his voice, hits her like a physical shock. The world doesn't just stop, it shatters. Dinner is served, but Akira's appetite is long gone. She's just a ghost at the table, her mind stuck on a loop of 5 letters. Her sisters are practically humming with glee, but Akira is gone. She's currently reliving that 1 second over and over, drowning in a bowl of miso soup. He called me Akira. He called me. Kokoharu is just trying to survive her lunch break when the air in the staff room suddenly gets a lot thinner. Sakuragi is standing right there, Chef White's crisp and eyes sincere, holding a gift bag like he's about to drop a bomb. She nearly chokes on her sandwich as she scrambles for a greeting, her brain short-circuiting into a repetitive loop. Sa-sa-sa Sakuragi-san. He hands it over, admitting he just chose based on his own taste since he doesn't actually know hers. The paper is covered in tiny, adorable deep-sea creatures. It's basically a physical manifestation of his dreams. Kokoharu clutches it like it's made of glass, her heart doing backflips as she manages a quiet, high-pitched "Q-cute." Then comes the hook. Sakuragi asks what she actually likes so he can have a reference for next time. The pressure is instantaneous. The room feels like it's closing in. She needs a good answer. Something sophisticated, something anything. Instead, her mouth moves before her brain can catch up. Like walking, I think? Sakuragi just nods, taking her generic answer at face value with a simple, "I see." He's being kind, but Kokoharu feels the weight of the lie settling in her stomach. By the time the sun goes down and she's back at the wakaba house, the regret is already starting to boil over. The hot water should be relaxing, but Kokoharu is currently drowning in a sea of her own embarrassment. She hunches her shoulders, staring at the rubber ducky like it's a witness to her crimes. The silence of the bathroom only makes the echo of her own voice louder, replaying that one stupid word over and over until she finally lets out a long, pathetic groan. She's spiraling. Walking? She doesn't even like walking. She imagines Sakuragi trying to connect with her over boring things like gardening or sweets, and it feels like she's building a relationship on a foundation of cardboard. She wants him to know the real her, but the real her is currently hiding behind a wall of steam and bad decisions. She eventually migrates to the bedroom, collapsing onto the sheets like a fallen soldier. Manatsu watches from the side, a mix of pity and amusement on her face as she calls it like she sees it. And so you went over your thoughts by yourself to the point of getting dizzy. Manatsu isn't about to let her big sister wallow. She strikes a pose, declaring a full-scale simulation. She'll be Sakuragi, and Kokoharu has to be honest. It's silly, but when Manatsu looks her in the eye and asks, "Please tell me about yourself honestly," the room suddenly feels a lot like that staff break room again. The questions keep coming, and Kokoharu keeps stumbling. Horses? Sure. Dark places? Maybe. But every time she gives a safe answer, she can feel the gap between her and the person she likes getting wider. Her fingers twitch, her face heats up, and finally, the dam starts to crack. She blurts it out, her face the very picture of pure, terrified honesty. This isn't the graceful, refined answer she thought she needed, it's the truth. I actually like to eat a whole lot, like ramen or hearty meals. Manatsu's reaction is basically a fireworks show. She's all over the room, practically vibrating with excitement. To her, this isn't a flaw, it's the ultimate weapon. And the heavy eater kind of gap, it's the best. Fueled by Manatsu's hype, Kokoharu finally makes a promise to herself. No more hiding. She's going to be an honest girl and tell Sakuragi the truth about her appetite. At the door, her younger sisters watch the chaos with a mix of affection and deadpan judgment, but the energy in the room is undeniable. The next day at work, Kokoharu is armed with honesty and nowhere to use it. She dries dishes with a heavy heart when she hears the news. Sakuragi took the day off. The sudden drop in her mood is visible from space, turning her honest girl mission into a complete non-starter. Her coworkers see the moping and decide to take matters into their own hands. A group visit is proposed, and before Kokoharu can even process the word barge, she's standing outside a building at night, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. And that's how she ends up here. sitting side by side with Sakuragi on the edge of his actual bed. The mattress creaks with every tiny movement, and the air is thick with the smell of his laundry and her own mounting panic. Their coworkers are partying just a few feet away, but in this small, quiet space, the distance between them feels like it's shrunk to zero. Kokoharu is currently vibrating at a frequency that might actually cause her to phase through the mattress. To Sakuragi, she looks less like a girl on a date and more like someone witnessing a crime. He can practically hear the gears grinding in her head. Ever since she entered my house, she hasn't said a single word. Is she okay? He reaches for a bottle of tea, trying to break the heavy silence with some basic hospitality. The tea barely hits the cup before she snaps. She leans in, eyes shut tight, her voice cracking the quiet of the room. I'm not going to hide my feelings anymore. It's not a confession, it's a battle cry. Sakuragi freezes mid-sip, his eyes going wide as he tries to process the sudden verbal explosion coming from the girl who was just playing statues. The truth comes spilling out in a desperate rush. She admits that her hobby of taking long, elegant walks was actually just a cover story for her real passion, hunting down the greasiest, most delicious ramen shops in the city. She's terrified of being seen as unladylike, her posture slumping as she waits for the judgment. I was worried you might be put off, so I ended up acting all shy, I'm sorry. Instead of being repulsed, Sakuragi leans in, genuinely floored by the high-resolution food porn on her phone. That's a lot of pork belly for one girl, and he's impressed. The tension in the room finally begins to thaw, replaced by the warm glow of a backlit smartphone screen. I would like you, who loves ramen, to taste it too. He doesn't miss a beat. He looks her right in the eye and delivers the one sentence that turns her brain into static. I want us to do this as a pair. It's not just a polite agreement, he's offering to treat her. He's leaning into her world now, promising to show her the best fish dishes while she shows him the heavy noodles. Kokoharu can only blink, the word together echoing in her mind like a church bell. But the intimate moment is short-lived. The noise from the floor finally breaks through as their coworkers realize they've been missing for a while. One of them is currently having a crisis over a bad mahjong hand and spots Kokoharu like a lifeboat. Before she can retreat back into her shell, she's being dragged toward the table. She tries to protest, her hands hovering nervously over the tiles. She hasn't played in years, but the group isn't taking no for an answer. Sakuragi watches from the sideline, curious to see another layer of this girl reveal itself. She takes a seat and suddenly the air around her shifts. The shy, stuttering Kokoharu starts to fade as she looks down at the wall of tiles. She remembers New Year's mornings with her father, the clack of tiles and the smell of tea. It wasn't a hobby, it was a tradition. Her glasses catch the light as her eyes sharpen, focusing on the numbers and the flow of the game. Her coworkers think they're in for an easy win, but they have no idea what they've just unleashed. Go easy on me. The room goes silent as she reaches out, her fingers moving with a precision that borders on professional. She isn't hesitating anymore. She places her bet, the tile hitting the table with a sharp, definitive click. Rishi, the shy sister, just threw down the gauntlet. The table stares in absolute disbelief. It's not just a win, it's a total annihilation. She flips her hand to reveal the rarest, most difficult combination in the book. Ron, 13 orphans. She didn't just win, she broke the game. The coworkers can only gape at the tiles, realizing the girl they were teasing is actually a hidden grandmaster. 32,000 points. The shock from the table is still ringing in her ears as they finally leave the apartment later that night. The night air is cool, and the adrenaline is starting to wear off, leaving Kokoharu back in her usual state of bashful panic. She's embarrassed that she showed off so much, but Sakuragi isn't mocking her. He's walking beside her, calling her hobby cool. They stop at a convenience store, and she finds her courage again. She claims her winner's prize, asking for one small thing. Sakuragi expects something big, but all she wants are 2 simple ice cream bars. They step out of the store into the quiet neighborhood, the neon sign buzzing behind them. Can I ask you for one thing? Sakuragi turns to head back, but her hand shoots out, fingers catching the fabric of his sleeve. It's a tiny, desperate gesture that stops him in his tracks. She's blushing furiously, the ice cream melting in her other hand. Can we eat this side by side right now? She isn't ready for the night to end. She isn't ready to let go of this version of herself. Sakuragi's composure finally snaps. He tries to open his ice cream, but his hands are shaking so much he practically nukes the packaging. Too much power, he stammers, looking like he just tried to wrestle a bear instead of a frozen treat. To save what's left of their dignity, they find a bench nearby, the awkwardness morphing back into something soft and shared. They sit side by side, the moon hanging low over the city. There's no more pretense, no more lying about hobbies or acting the part. Just two people sharing ice cream on a quiet street. Kokoharu takes a bite, a small, genuine smile finally reaching her eyes. It's good, isn't it? The candy shop is their sanctuary, a ritual carved out of the afternoon where time usually stretches thin. Shifuyu watches the street, a lollipop balanced against her cheek, while Yukito fidgets with his snacks. His gaze drifts toward the bus stop, then back at her, his voice small and sincere. If only my house was close like Fuyu's. Then I wouldn't have to ride the bus. There is a comfortable gravity here, pulling them together over bags of cheap chips and the low hum of the late afternoon. He leans in, eyes bright with that specific, childish greed for a friend's snack. Lemme have one. Fuyu holds her ground, her face a mask of calm even as her pulse picks up speed. It's a game they've played 100 times, right until the rumble of the engine breaks the spell. The bus doesn't wait for goodbyes. In a blur of motion, she thrusts the remaining snack into his hands, a silent peace offering before he's swallowed by the folding doors. She stands alone on the asphalt, the exhaust lingering in the air like a period at the end of a sentence. It was just a few minutes. It was everything. Morning light hits the classroom with a clinical edge, erasing the soft shadows of the candy shop. The teacher is already droning on about the upcoming school camp, a new milestone looming on the horizon. Shifuyu's eyes drift toward Yukito's desk. The routine is supposed to be unbreakable. The bell rings, but the air feels different today. Shifuyu reaches for her bag, the invitation already on her tongue, one more trip for camp snacks. But Yukito doesn't move. He meets her eyes, a strange new distance in his gaze that feels like miles. I can't go today. The explanation hits with a heavy, crushing force. Cram school, entrance exams, a future in a private middle school that hasn't even begun yet. He's already stepping toward a world she isn't part of. I'm gonna take the entrance exams for the private middle school my brother goes to. He smiles, oblivious to the fact that he's just dismantled their afternoons. She goes anyway. The shop is still there, the shelves still bursting with the same colorful wrappers, but the silence is deafening. She buys the usual snack. The exchange at the register quick and hollow. There's no bus to wait for, no one to tease. Just the cold realization that the bench is far too big for one person. The gloom is broken by a whirlwind of brown hair and bright energy. Manatsu practically bounces into view, her voice cutting through Chifuyu's spiraling thoughts. It's a coincidence, a lucky meeting on the walk home, but the brightness feels almost painful against Chifuyu's gray mood. Manatsu holds out a crinkly bag, her usual high-voltage energy buzzing through the sidewalk silence. It's the classic older sister move. When words fail, try sugar. This is your favorite, isn't it, Fuyu? Shifuyu stares at the bright packaging, but the familiar comfort doesn't land. She doesn't reach for it, her voice coming out flat. You can have it all. The rejection of her favorite treat is the loudest thing she's said all day. Manatsu blinks, the bag hovering in midair. Shifuyu doesn't look up, just a small, tired, yay. Manatsu takes the hint, though she doesn't quite feel the weight of it yet. She tips the bag back, pouring the crumbs directly into her mouth with the unbothered grace of a girl who's always hungry. But as the crunching stops, the stillness of the street catches up to her. She looks over her shoulder, the brightness in her eyes fading as she really studies her little sister. Shifuyu isn't just being moody, she's drowning. The energetic ponytail stops bouncing as Manatsu realizes a handful of snacks isn't going to fix whatever just broke inside the youngest wakaba. Well, run home. Manatsu grabs her hand and pulls, forcing her into a rhythm she isn't ready for. The pavement blurs beneath her feet. She's moving, but her mind is stuck back at the bus stop. She didn't know how fragile it was. She didn't know the end was already here. It wasn't just the snacks, it was the way the light hit the vending machine. It was the specific vibration of the bus arriving. All those tiny, unremarkable seconds spent side by side were a language they were building together. To Shifuyu, it was the only time in the day when the world felt exactly the right size. The future is a series of empty benches and bus rides she'll never take. Little by little, the space between them is widening, and she has no idea how to close it. She looks at the empty seat in her mind, wondering if this is how things simply fade away. The dam finally breaks, her lungs burn with the cold air, and her vision blurs as the first hot tear spills over. This isn't the cool, collected Shifuyu the world knows. This is a girl terrified of losing her best friend to a stack of textbooks and a different school gate. "I hate that," she screams it into the wind, the words lost in the sound of her own frantic footsteps. She catches up to Manatsu, her breath coming in ragged gasps, her face flushed from more than just the run. Manatsu looks back, a question in her eyes, but Shifuyu just steadies herself. She wipes her face, that familiar stoic facade clicking back into place. But there's a new fire underneath. "Thank you." The day of the camp arrives, the bus idling in front of the school like a promise. Shifuyu pulls her cap low, looking out at the crowd of students. The routine is gone, and the future is uncertain, but she isn't going to let the distance win. "Keep trying my best." She steps forward, ready to find a new way to stay close. School wilderness trip. Fresh air, tall trees, and a ticking clock on Chifuyu's heart. She's not here for the nature. She's on a mission to burn herself into Yukito's memory before the cram school schedule swallows him whole. Her sisters told her to be herself, but her version of best involves leaving everyone else in the dust. You guys are slow, no? Step 1. Total dominance of the local pond. She doesn't just skip a stone, she launches it with the precision of a heat-seeking missile. The water practically cowers under the force. "How's that, huh?" She plays it cool, but she's checking for a reaction like her life depends on it. Next up, the hunt for the ultimate branch. She's treating a forest walk like a gladiatorial arena, her entire body radiating a restless competitive energy. Her friends are starting to whisper, calling her real weird, but she doesn't care. She squares up to Yukito, eyes locked, and delivers the challenge. "Yukito, shall we duel over there?" And just like that, the air goes out of the balloon. Yukito doesn't even look at her. He just shuts it down. "Nah, thanks, no fun competing with you anymore, really." He walks away, leaving Shifuyu rooted to the spot, her bravado crumbling under the weight of a no. The Ice Queen mask is slipping into angry toddler territory. She snaps at the boys, her voice rising as the group dynamic fractures. "So what if I don't want to?" She's lashing out because she doesn't know how to handle the silence he's giving her. She watches his back as they walk. He's not being mean, she realizes. He's just growing up faster than her. While she's busy trying to win games, he's already thinking about the next chapter. He isn't childish anymore. He's just acting his age. And that's the scariest thing of all. A warning goes unheeded. How about cutting straight through here? The reckless part of her. The part that can't stand being left behind takes over. She can't be chill. She can't take it slow. She launches herself down the embankment, her sneakers losing their grip on the loose earth. Dust settles. The others catch up, panting and oblivious to the sharp throb in her ankle. She stands there, forcing her face into that familiar stoic mold, even as her pulse screams. She did it. She caught up. But at what cost? The limp is impossible to hide. A friend notices the stagger, shattering the peace until the quiet forest is full of noise. "You hurt your leg." Panic sets in for everyone but Yukito. They scramble to find a nurse, their voices fading into the trees as they sprint away. Silence returns, but it's different now. Yukito doesn't leave. He guides her to a rock with a steady hand. He's not the boy she was just arguing with. He's someone who came prepared, brought some ice packs. He reaches for her shoe, and Shifuyu's breath hitches. His hands are warm and surprisingly sure. He handles her foot with a careful, mature gentleness that makes her face burn hotter than her injury. She tries to compliment his observation skills, but he just shrugs it off. "I'm not useless, you know." She says it. The truth she's been hiding behind all those howzats. "You're looking quite cool right now." Yukito's composure shatters into a wide, flustered grin. He jokes about her not being able to live without him, his own ears turning pink in the dappled sunlight. But the joke has a sharp edge. If he's right, if she can't live without him, then what happens when the schools change? No more candy store meetings, no more shared afternoons. The reality of their separate paths settles over them like a cold fog. The dam breaks again, but this time it's quiet. She looks at him, her eyes wide and wet, and lets the truth out without a mask. She isn't the ice queen or the karate prodigy. She's just a girl terrified of a quiet afternoon without him. "I'll miss you a lot." She waits for the echo. She waits for him to say it back, to promise that the distance won't matter. But Yukito just looks down, his face unreadable beneath the brim of his cap. Not really. The words hit harder than the fall down the embankment. The ice queen has been dethroned by a sprained ankle and a cold shoulder. Shifuyu sits in the wreckage of her failed admission, the silence heavier than the bandage on her foot. While the rest of the class peers through telescopes at the stars, Chifuyu is stuck staring at the pavement. She tried to be the hero, to take the shortcut and impress him, but all she did was worry her friends and get herself benched. She can hear them whispering nearby. "I wonder if Fuyu's leg is okay." The worst part isn't the pain, it's the missed opportunity. She let the truth slip out and he just walked away, or so she thought. A familiar voice cuts through the self-pity, steady and grounding. "Your leg, does it still hurt?" Yukito takes a seat on the steps, settling into the quiet space beside her. Tension hangs heavy between them with things unsaid, so Chifuyu grabs the first safe topic she can find. "Is cram school, fun?" He doesn't give a standard, it's boring answer. He talks about the smart people there, how they push him to be better. It's a side of him she rarely sees, raw and ambitious. He answers so fast it almost feels defensive. He leans his chin on his hand, his eyes burning with a sudden quiet fire. "I'm still kinda pissed when you held back on me the other day." He isn't looking for a girl to protect, he's looking for a rival to chase. He saw through her facade long before she ever dropped it. This is why he's burying himself in math exams and extra classes. It's not about grades, it's a desperate attempt to stay in her orbit. "I figured if I powered up, you'd take me seriously next time." He looks away, embarrassed by the honesty. "Besides, if I don't get a head start, you'll just leave me in the dust." He says it like it's the most obvious thing in the world. Different schools? Doesn't matter. Cram school, just another hurdle. What's gonna stop us from meeting up? At the usual candy shop, The knot in Chifuyu's chest finally unravels, her eyes shimmering with something that isn't sadness anymore. Before she can lose her cool, Yukito starts rummaging through his bag like he's smuggling contraband. "This is a secret, okay?" He hands her a crinkly bag of chips, a gesture that feels like a sacred rite. It's just like that time, back when the world felt simpler and the only thing that mattered was the walk home. Chifuyu was having a disastrous afternoon, her Ice Queen mask cracking over a lost bunny keychain. She's staring at the sidewalk when a shadow falls over her. Yukito doesn't offer a polite greeting, he just stares. "You just look a little bit down." She tries to brush him off, but Yukito is on a mission. He points down a side street she's never noticed. "Come with me for a bit." He doesn't wait for permission, he just starts walking, dragging her out of her spiraling thoughts. He brings her to a hidden gem, a tiny shop tucked away from the usual school routes. It's his sanctuary, and he's letting her in. Shifuyu realizes she doesn't have a dime on her, but he just grins, his thumb pointed at his chest. "It's on me today." Sitting on the bench outside, Shifuyu finally lets the question slip. She's an expert at hiding her feelings. How did this kid see through it? He doesn't even look at her when he says it. If you keep watching someone long enough, you just know. The weight of that confession hits him all at once, and his face turns a frantic shade of crimson. He starts yelling about finding rivals' weaknesses just to fill the silence, but it's too late. Her frozen exterior has finally melted. For the first time, she's actually smiling at him. Yeah. Seeing that smile is all the reward he needed. The embarrassment is still there, but it's buried under a wave of relief. He hands her the snack, the crinkle of the bag cementing the deal. "What happened here is a secret between us, okay?" She hides her burning face behind the plastic, her heart hammering a rhythm she doesn't recognize. The secret isn't the snack or the shop, it's the way he looks at her. Yeah. Standing here in the night air, the fear of the future finally fades. She realizes that as long as they keep watching each other, the distance won't win. She doesn't need a guarantee. She just needs him. She looks him in the eye, her voice no longer trembling. "Promise me you'll keep challenging me, like always." It's a pact written in the stars and sealed with a glance. He doesn't just promise, he grins like he's already won. A few days later, Yukito walks into his cram school expecting another dull night of study. Instead, he finds a familiar bob and a very familiar blush. Chifuyu didn't just wait for him, she caught up. "I've decided to start cram school too. Looking forward to studying with you."